So with Beatrix all crocheted, let's attach her hair. So this is a technique that I have used on a couple of the dolls now, especially women from this era tend to always have quite a similar hairstyle. So what we're going to do is we've colour changed the scalping in the contrasting colour. So you've got your hairline marked like that. Then cut yourself your lengths of yarn and actually put your hook in around that hairline through the actual crochet like that. Hoop through the end and tassel those on. So go all the way around the hairline with 2 rounds of that spread out by about 2 stitches. So with 1 set of the strands attached all the way around, I'm now going to go round and do exactly the same thing again. So you've got 2 strands all the way around the hairline. Then what we're going to do is we're going to gather it up, and then we'll be using our leftover yarn in our ball to actually put the bun on the back. Before then, I'm going to sew on a few flowers as we put her together. So once you've got your 2 rounds of ends knotted in, what you need to do then is gather that together like you would tie a ponytail on a perfectly normal human rather than a crochet doll. So like you would tie a ponytail. So fasten that off. You can always sew that in and through the bunch of hair as well. Then with your remaining ball of yarn, take the centre out like that. And what that leaves behind is the perfectly formed little bun. So what we're going to do is actually use this as the bun on the back of the doll. So take her ponytail, and I might actually shorten these ends up. So I'm just going to trim that down a little bit so my ends are a bit shorter. And I might have to come back and do a little bit more of that later to tidy it up when we're finishing it off. Put that bit over the ponytail like that. And that's going to form our bun. Keep it nice and low down. We don't want it too high on the top of the head. So you want it about there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew these ends over and back into that bun to secure it in place. So we're going to take these, thread them up onto your wool needle and sew them down and into that bun to hold that yarn on the back of the head. So then once you've sewn a lot of them in, just finally secure it by tucking all the ends in and then taking 1 long end and sewing between the yarn and the hairline again like that. So with Beatrix's hair now in position and completed, I just want to talk you through a few other elements just to help you along while you're putting Beatrix Potter together. So her shawl. You're creating a shawl very much in the same way that you would crochet a shawl for yourself. It's just a very miniature version of that. So just to clarify how you're doing it, is you're doing the long chain across here before you begin, and then you're missing the stitches and working back down. And then as you decrease and you're going all the way down to the point, you're going to finish on the point, and what you then do is you edge it by going all the way up one side, and then you double crochet into your starting chain, and then you edge it again with the picots as you come back down. So just to show you how that's made, you're coming down from the widest bit to the point, and then you're going right the way around the edge. Then other elements to show you. So when creating the pleats on her skirt, what we're going to be doing here is you start at the top of the skirt and you crochet downwards. And then in order to create those pleats, so they sit at the top and the bottom like that, lined up. So she's got that classic full Victorian skirt. So in your crochet, you'll be missing 2 stitches on the previous round, and that will give you these little lumps like this in your fabric. So you'll have these little tucked bits of a couple of stitches that sit on the inside like that. And then what you do when you come round to them is you'll be crocheting along your normal round, and then you're actually going to increase into those ones in the back. So you do 2 stitches into there, go along to the next one, do 2 stitches into there, and then back on to your main round. And what that does is it increases your number of stitches in your row, but it'll just sit those lovely pleats to tuck them in the back. Then let's take a look at her hat. So to make the flowers that are on her hat, and some of you that are TOFT Quarterly subscribers might recognise that they were actually the flowers that were used to create the bouquet on the front of the magazine. Let me just show you how to do those. So create a slip knot on your hook, and chain 2 stitches, then double crochet 6 into a ring. So we're starting in exactly the same way that we do with Ed's Animals. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then pull that tight. And then using your second colour, so that's going to be the centre of your flowers, go into the first one, and we're going to change the colour in a slip stitch. So put your hook into that first one, yarn over with the new colour and bring that through that stitch and through the one on your hook like that. And then we're going to create a cluster, and we're just going to create 6 clusters around the outside, which is what forms the petals. So what you need to do is pull that yarn up to the height that the petal will be like that. Yarn round the hook and into that stitch. Yarn over and pull it up to that height again. So you've got 3 loops on your hook there. Yarn round the hook, in and through, and you've got 5. Yarn round the hook, in and through, and you'll have 7. Then yarn over again and bring it through all 7 loops, and then do a chain stitch to lock those into place. And then all you do is you slip stitch into the next one along like that, and do the same thing again. So pull it up to create this cluster, and do 1, 2 and 3 to the point where it's got 7. Yarn over and bring it through all of them, and then chain 1 to lock it into place, and then slip 1 stitch into the next one along. So that's 2. Pull the centre tight. You might find that the centre opens up as you're working them, but in the same way that we do when we do the magic ring start, you can just pull that tight at the end. And slip stitch in, and that is a flower complete, ready to sew onto Beatrix's bonnet. So included in your kit, you got a straw hat like this. And what we're going to do is, using the ribbons that you've crocheted, is to create the correct shape that turns that into a bonnet with the flowers on the back. So what you need to do first is get the band, the wider band that's got the trebles and is the same width throughout, and sew that into place. Now on your hat, you'll find you've got the join here. Just see, you can see the join. I would make sure that that's at the back. So find where that is, where that ends in the straw, turn that into the back. So first sew this into place using your ends really firmly. Now you might find you have to be a bit rough with this to puncture through the straw hat, but my tip would be, don't go for where it's seamed and it's double thickness. Go for where it's single thickness in the middle of one of those rotations. So go in like that. Come out through. There we go. And then go along the edge to fix that into place. Then really firmly secure that end. Then what you want to do next is take your two ribbons that will have a narrower end and a wider end where you've worked those different heights of stitches. And there you'll have a right side, which is the front of the stitches where you'll see the V's on the edge, and a wrong side. With the right side facing upwards, attach that onto the end of here and sew that into position. So that's why it's quite important to make sure that that back ribbon is really firmly attached, because we're actually going to put these two other pieces under tension by knotting them to go under her chin. So sew that on, and again, really secure that into your hat. And what I would say, to give yourself a nice tidy edges on the inside of your hat, I would sew these off and secure these by going into the threads that are already there. So you'll be able to wrap them round the threads that are already in there before you chop those ends off. So do the same thing on the other side. Get your right side facing. And sew it into place. Now, when it comes to creating the shape of the hat, so that is the bottom that you've got there. Where you've put the ribbon, the wide bit that goes round, that is the bottom of the hat. So all you need to do is take the two side pieces like that, pull the hat in, and you might want to place it on her head at this point to get it in the right place, but you're going to knot these two together like that. So it pulls the hat to create that shape. So knot that together. And actually with mine, because I don't want it to ever come apart, because you can actually take it off and on her head without untying that ribbon, I've actually then sewn my ends into that knot so that that knot is fixed in place. You can add as many or as few of the flowers on as you want to then. So you could decide to really go for it with all the yarn that you've got left over and put them all the way over the bonnet. But what I've done is I've just gone for 3 pinks and 3 violets there with the sage centres on one side. Now you can see I've got all my ends inside. I've got to go and sew all these in before I snip these off. But how you would then place her hat onto her head is you don't have to untie this fixture. You can just pop it in and over her head like that. And then her lovely bonnet is in place.